The 8-0 Michigan Wolverines traveled to Rutgers to take on the 4-4 Scarlet Knights on Saturday. Michigan is 7-1 all-time against Rutgers. The only time that Rutgers beat the Wolverines was the first time they ever played, back in 2014, aka the Brady Hoke era. But the Wolverines have had some close calls against Rutgers lately. We know that last season ended really well for Michigan, but they struggled against Rutgers. They beat them 20-13 in a game where Michigan's offense really couldn't get much going at all. And in 2020, it took Cade McNamara coming off the bench to beat Rutgers in overtime. This season, Rutgers started 3-0 with wins over Boston College, Wagner, and Temple, but the Scarlet Knights have gone just 1-4 in their last 5 games. Losses against Iowa, Ohio State, and Nebraska, a win over Indiana, and then last week a 31-0 loss to Minnesota. The Rutgers offense only puts up 305 yards per game, 121st in the nation. Michigan comes in at 469 yards a game, good for 22nd overall. On the ground, Rutgers averages 150 rushing yards a game, 66th in the country. Michigan at 246, that's 5th. Through the air, Rutgers only averages 154 passing yards a game, that's 121st in the country. Michigan averages 223, that's good for 86th overall. As for scoring offense, Rutgers averages only 20 points a game, 114th in the country. Michigan averages 41 points a game, 8th overall. Defensively, Rutgers is much better than they are on offense. They only give up 295 yards per game, which is good for 13th in the country. Michigan is 3rd in the country with 250 yards per game given up. Rutgers allows 108 rushing yards per game, that's 19th. Michigan only gives up 80 yards a game, 3rd overall. Rutgers ranks 21st with only 187 passing yards given up. Michigan is 8th with 170 per game. As for scoring defense, Rutgers gives up 22.5 per game, 44th overall, and Michigan gives up 11.5 per game, 3rd in the country. Some notes from MGoBlue.com. Michigan is 8-0 in back-to-back seasons for the first time since 1973-1974. Blake Corum and Jake Moody were named Big Ten Players of the Week. They are 2nd and 3rd in the nation in scoring. Michigan is one of only 4 teams that rank in the top 10 in both scoring offense and scoring defense, along with Georgia, Bama, and Ohio State. That's pretty good company to be in. Blake Corum has 843 rushing yards and 8 touchdowns, 1 receiving touchdown, across 5 Big Ten games, averaging 5.81 yards per carry in conference play. Across his last 13 Big Ten games dating back to last season, Blake Corum has totaled 1,375 yards, 11 rushing touchdowns on 5.8 yards per carry. Corum is 4th in the country in rushing yards, 26th in yards per carry, and 2nd in total touchdowns with 15. He's also picked up the most first downs in the country with 71. Looking back at Rutgers' last game where they lost 31-0 to Minnesota, they were outgained 253-48 on the ground. So you know that Michigan has to be licking its chops going into Saturday. Even better for Michigan and worse for Rutgers is that the Scarlet Knights only gained a total of 134 yards in that game. That doesn't bode well going into a game against the top 5 defense in the country. The quarterback for Rutgers is Gavin Wimsatt. In the last game, he left with an injury. They thought that he might be out for the Michigan game, but he indeed will make the start. He's a redshirt freshman, and this is only his 3rd career start. Last week against Minnesota, he was just 6 for 17 for 68 yards and an interception. Here's a note from Wolverines Wire. According to Pro Football Focus, when Wimsatt drops back with a clean pocket, he completes 45.2% of his throws, and he has thrown a touchdown along with an interception. Pro Football Focus gives him a respectable 77.7 passing grade when he is kept clean. But things turn south when the sophomore senses pressure. When the pocket breaks down and Wimsatt is under pressure, he is completing 12% of his throws. He has been picked off twice. Pro Football Focus gives him a 24 passing grade when pressured. And the way that Michigan's defensive line and pass rush overall has been playing, I think it's going to be a pretty long day for the Rutgers quarterback. Here's what Greg Schiano had to say about stopping Michigan's offense. Well, it's hard. Why do they have a good running game? They have a very good offensive line. They have 2 really good backs, probably more, but 2 that play a lot, and a quarterback that can run and pass. So you have to defend the pass, you have to defend his run. The offensive line is doing a good job blocking. They have 2 upper echelon running backs. Here's what I want to see from Michigan against Rutgers on Saturday. Red zone improvement. There's not a whole lot to complain about with the Michigan football team, but one area that needs to be improved is scoring touchdowns when Michigan gets down in the red zone. Honestly, it probably won't matter if Michigan does just kick a lot of field goals instead of scoring touchdowns against Rutgers, but it would be nice to see some creativity once the Wolverines get down inside the 20. I could be wrong, but I don't think there were any throws into the end zone at all against Michigan State. Besides that, just stay healthy, be smart. If JJ's going to run the ball, get down or get out of bounds. There's no sense in getting hurt against Rutgers. Michigan is going to need its best players down the stretch. I'm not sure we'll get to see it, but I would like to see Michigan take some shots down the field against Rutgers. I know this is something that a lot of the fan base has been talking about all season, wanting to see more of, and it feels like Michigan needs to improve that part of the offense to make teams respect the passing game a little bit more. The Wolverines are a 26-point favorite against Rutgers. With a redshirt freshman quarterback making his third career start against Michigan on Saturday, and Michigan's ability to run the ball on anyone, I like the Wolverines big. I think they'll cover the spread yet again. Give me Michigan 48, Rutgers 10. Make sure to watch this video where we laugh at Mel Tucker. If you're a Michigan football fan, hit subscribe. And as always, go blue.